major injustice that is being done to me.
He's just not a fair person. He's very greedy when it comes down to money.
Why?
I think that he's going to screw Mary and Janelle completely.
When Christine Brown quietly revealed that her memoir had jumped from 288 to 320 pages, most fans didn't think twice. Just a few extra pages, right? But behind the scenes, something very different was unfolding. Those 32 new pages weren't an afterthought. They were a last-minute storm. According to insiders close to the publishing team, they weren't just filler. They were explosive. The additions came just weeks before final printing, and in the publishing world, that kind of 11th hour rewrite usually means only one thing: something big changed. Fast. One source said the new content was Christine at her rawest, tearing down the carefully crafted image of her marriage to Cody with words that hit like a hammer. One paragraph in particular, it stopped the editing room cold. An insider said no one wanted to send it to legal. They just turned to Christine and asked, "Are you sure?" She was, and now that sentence is headed for bookstores, printed in black and white. Christine's never been the one to tell all. She's protected more than she's exposed. But these new pages, they mark a turning point. Not just in the story of her marriage, but in the story she's finally ready to tell. For years, she played a part. The smiling wife, the peacekeeper at the dinner table, the woman who nodded along during awkward silences and sat through family meetings that never quite felt honest. But this is something else entirely. This is Christine with the filter off. No TLC editing room, no soft lighting, just truth. The advanced copy of her memoir, quietly shared with a handful of early reviewers, starts off gentle, reflective. But then, somewhere around the midpoint, it hits a wall, and the mask comes off. One new page begins with a line that reportedly made even seasoned editors stop cold. The truth is, I was never really married. From there, the gloves are off. Christine describes the spiritual marriage she defended for decades as little more than a performance, one designed to make her feel like she belonged, even if she never really did. It's not just about a broken relationship. It's about a woman waking up from an emotional illusion. And for longtime fans, it's devastating. We watched her raise 6 kids under a roof she now calls hollow. We saw her on those couches next to Robin, putting on a brave face, nodding, smiling, pretending. But underneath it all, Christine says she was realizing something painful, that the man she called her husband was never truly present. Not emotionally, not fully, not for her. And just when you think it can't get heavier, it does. Because this story, it's only getting messier.
The sex was never, God, it was just so broken.
It was broken. Did you ever say, Cody, this sucks?
We didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
No, did not talk about it because we both knew there was something lacking and something missing.
Sources say Christine didn't just open up about her own emotions. She put Cody's words on the record, too. In one of the newly added sections, she recalls a moment away from the cameras, when Cody allegedly admitted that their spiritual marriage was mostly symbolic, something to please the church, something to keep up appearances. If that's true, it wasn't just Christine who saw the cracks. It was Cody himself quietly confirming them. And if he admitted that once, you have to wonder what else was said when the cameras weren't rolling. Christine, meanwhile, has kept her public face calm, smiling in interviews, signing books, thanking fans. But insiders say those 32 new pages were her line in the sand, her way of closing the door not just on Cody, but on the show, the belief system, and the illusion of a perfect plural marriage. And that's not even the real bombshell. Because the biggest twist, the truth had already started to leak out long before Christine ever wrote a word. The show had been quietly revealing it all along. Fans saw it. The heaviness in her eyes, the way her smile faded during group scenes, the practice lines that never quite matched her body language. And now, according to early readers, Christine confirms it. The camera never lied, but she did, over and over. In one gut-wrenching passage, Christine admits it was watching old episodes that finally shattered her denial. She kept saying I was happy, she writes, but it wasn't true. And I think deep down, I always knew it. That confession sets the tone for what she calls her truth chapter, a final goodbye to silence, a final goodbye to pretending. One of the most powerful moments in the memoir reportedly flashes back to the early seasons, a scene where all the wives sit together talking about the beauty of plural marriage. But Christine remembers it differently. She felt nothing, no connection, no truth, just lines, just roles. The role I played was happy wife. I wore that costume well until I couldn't anymore. And the most haunting part, her realizations didn't come from deep conversations. They came from watching herself on TV. One moment stands out, a now infamous scene where she tells the camera she feels fulfilled as a wife and mother. But in the margin of that original script draft, Christine reportedly wrote just one sentence. "This is the biggest lie I ever told." And she wasn't alone. Sources say the book suggests that other wives knew, that there were quiet glances, shared doubts, fleeting looks of exhaustion, snuffed out the second a producer walked in. Christine doesn't name names. She doesn't have to. The implication is crystal clear. She wasn't the only one faking it. But the moment that really hits, the one that has readers talking, is buried halfway through one of those new pages, the kind of moment you don't see coming and can never unsee. According to insiders in the publishing world, Christine takes readers back to a quiet, off-camera moment from years ago, a conversation that still lingers like smoke. In it, Cody allegedly described their marriage not as love, not even as a true partnership, but as the appearance of togetherness. Just 6 words, but they land like a bomb. Because what do you call a marriage built on appearances? Not a union, a brand. Here's where it gets even more layered. TLC's legal team reportedly spotted the passage during final manuscript edits. There was a pause, but Christine had been careful. She didn't quote Cody directly. She framed it as a personal recollection. Smart, subtle, and sharp enough to cut. The line stayed in. And now fans are going back, rewatching old episodes, combing through expressions, tone shifts, long silences, trying to pinpoint the exact moment Christine stopped pretending. Because if the whole thing was a stage, who else was acting? But while the book stirred quiet waves, Christine's digital presence sent a shockwave. It started with her Instagram bio. Once it proudly declared her identity as a sister wife, linking directly to the show that made her a household name. Now, that identity is gone, scrubbed clean. In its place, a bold, empowering statement about taking control, changing your life, and finding hope again. It doesn't reference the past. It doesn't cling to old titles. It launches something new. It's not bitter, it's free. Insiders say the rebrand wasn't subtle behind the scenes. When Christine submitted those final 32 pages, she also told her team she was done with the franchise's brand deals, done with Sister Wives press tours, done with promoting anything under the Brown family banner. No more cameos, no joint appearances, and definitely no standing next to Cody or Robin in interviews. According to one producer, she didn't announce her exit. She didn't need to. Her silence said it all. Janelle, for now, hasn't made the same move. Her bio still nods to the show. She's straddling 2 worlds, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. But Christine, she's gone. And it's not just the fans who noticed. TLC execs reportedly scrambled behind the scenes. One source claimed that just 48 hours after the updated book file hit the printer, the network's talent team made a late-night call to Christine's publisher. Panicked. Was she leaving the show? Were they in breach of contract by airing her scenes without formal promotion? Whether that call really happened or not, what followed speaks volumes. Christine launched her 4-city tour, New York, New Jersey, Chicago, Salt Lake City, and suddenly TLC went silent. No retweets, no Instagram tags, no behind-the-scenes reels, nothing. And that silence spread to the cast accounts. It's as if everyone's holding their breath, waiting to see what Christine does next. But Christine, she's already moved on. Bold lipstick, brighter colors, her new husband, David, by her side. She's not a sister wife, not a former sister wife. She's just Christine. And the book? It's not just a memoir. It's a resignation letter. Not from Cody, because that marriage was never legal, but from the entire system that kept her quiet. And tucked into those final pages is one last whisper. A closing note so sharp, so deliberate, it doesn't need to scream. It just lingers, like the end of a story you know isn't fiction anymore.
For a long time, it was just fun. And it was just a blast. We just had a lot of good times.
Sources say Christine reprints her newly updated bio in a quiet footnote at the end of the final chapter, like a whisper, but one with power. As if to say, you want to know who I am now? Read it again. It's subtle, but pointed. A soft mic drop that says the old Christine is gone for good. But fans want more than a footnote. They want to know what changed, what finally gave her the strength to speak the truth after years of smiling through silence. According to her memoir, the moment didn't come during filming. It didn't happen in a therapy session. It wasn't even sparked by Cody himself. It came in the quiet, while Christine was alone, staring at a document she used to protect like a treasure, something Cody once called sacred. It was a handmade covenant, inked in marker, decorative paper, a wax seal sticker pressed on the bottom like it meant something real. Cody had drawn it up himself, years ago, a symbol of spiritual marriage, filled with flourishes and scripted promises. Christine treated it like a marriage license. She placed it in a fireproof box. She believed in it. She built her life around it. But now, looking at it again years later, she saw it for what it really was. Not a sacred bond, a performance piece. The promises weren't rooted in love. They were rooted in image. That document, she writes, wasn't a declaration of commitment. It was a contract written by a man who wanted control disguised as faith. And that's when it all clicked. Christine stopped pretending, stopped rewriting her own needs, stopped calling emotional neglect something sacred. And in that quiet shift, she didn't just walk away from Cody. She walked away from the illusion that kept her trapped. That piece of paper used to feel like proof. Now, it feels like her reason for leaving.
Plural marriage is hard. I thought from my myopic perspective, it was just hard on me. But I failed to recognize what a struggle this would be for my wives.
Christine allegedly includes a replica of that covenant in her book, names redacted of course, but the message it sends is crystal clear. This wasn't a marriage certificate, it wasn't notarized, it wasn't legal, it was theater. A performance, she writes, crafted not to protect her, but to pacify her, to give her something that looked like commitment, something she could hold on to while everything else was slipping through her fingers. A staged illusion wrapped in faith, designed to keep her loyal and quiet. On the surface, the covenant spoke of shared responsibility, of spiritual unity, of emotional leadership, but Christine claims none of that ever showed up in her real life. And in a single handwritten margin note, simple but devastating, she lays it bare. It only mattered when it benefited him. That line hits like a stone in the gut. Because it wasn't just about love or belief anymore, it was about control, about appearances, about one man drawing the lines of a sacred union, then refusing to live by any of them.
And for the first time, Christine calls it what it really was: emotional manipulation wrapped in spiritual language. That covenant Cody made, it may have had no legal weight, but to Christine, it meant everything. She was raised to believe in eternal unions. Her family ties to the AUB ran generations deep. Her bloodline traced straight back to Rulon Allred himself. She believed in sacred callings, in forever families, in the quiet promise that if she just kept giving, the blessings would come. But as she reveals in the book, that covenant never protected her. It protected him. It gave Cody something to hold over her, a piece of paper he could point to and say, "You agreed to this, you chose this life." And when she finally began to pull away, to question what that life had actually cost her, Cody allegedly used that same document like a spiritual contract, proof, he claimed, that she still owed him something. But Christine didn't just walk away from the paper, she walked away from the man who wrote it. And rumor has it, she didn't leave empty-handed. According to one insider, the updated version of Christine's memoir includes a quietly devastating detail, a financial footnote, a breakdown of what she contributed during those covenant years: childcare, groceries, rent, education, healthcare, page after page of receipts, literal and emotional. And next to that, what Cody contributed. If it's true, the numbers tell a brutal story. A woman who poured herself into an illusion and paid for it in
Not to mention the emotional toll, the years Christine spent watching her kids feel sidelined by a father more focused on managing his public image than showing up for them. That kind of wound doesn't heal easily. And according to early readers, it's this moment, the unveiling of a covenant that was never real, that shifts the entire tone of Christine's memoir. Up until that point, the story reads like one of quiet, personal growth. But here, The gloves come off, the mask slips, the narrative turns. Christine doesn't just say the marriage was unfulfilling, she says it was weaponized. And that covenant, that strange little document Cody drafted years ago in looping handwriting, sealed with symbolism but empty of substance, readers are asking if Christine kept it all this time. And if so, what else has she been holding on to? What's still tucked away in that fireproof box? Because for years, the Sister Wives universe has danced around an uncomfortable truth. The money? It was never equal. Christine's book doesn't just hint at that, it detonates it. Somewhere in those 32 new pages is a quiet but damning financial breakdown. It's not vague, it's not emotional guesswork. It's cold, hard numbers, figures, dates, deposits, withdrawals. Sources say Christine, allegedly with Janelle's help, reconstructed a timeline of spending that makes one thing crystal clear. While all the wives were told they were building something together, the money mostly flowed one way, toward one household. The book reportedly includes a single line that's already going viral among advanced readers. We all gave, but only one house got. What follows is a chilling side-by-side. Who paid for what? Who sacrificed? How often joint family funds were redirected, not to a shared need, but to Robin's house. Christine never says her name, but she doesn't have to. The math speaks louder than words.
And what makes it even more chilling is that Christine doesn't lay out the numbers with rage. She lays them out with receipts. No bitterness, no dramatic monologue, just cold, steady facts. This wasn't jealousy, this was accounting. Allegedly, Christine includes screenshots, yes, actual screenshots of old expense reports, line items tagged under the joint family account, handwritten notes from Janelle tallying each time she or Christine covered a major cost Cody either promised to repay or mysteriously forgot. And the pattern? It wasn't a slip-up, it was a system, one that quietly drained some wives while funneling comfort and financial security to one house, one woman, one narrative. Christine doesn't need to raise her voice. She's simply saying the quiet part out loud now. They told us we were serving the family, but the family was never truly served. Not equally, not honestly. And maybe the most gutting detail of all, sources close to the publishing process say Christine almost left this section out, not because it wasn't true, but because she didn't want it to look like revenge. It's not about payback, she reportedly told her team. It's about clarity. And that clarity, it hits like a spotlight. Steady, unforgiving, and long overdue.
Her audience deserved the truth, not just the emotional truth, but the practical one. Christine didn't just leave because her heart was broken, she left because her wallet was too. Because eventually, the math doesn't lie. There comes a point when you realize the loyalty isn't mutual, she allegedly writes. You give your last dollar and they're still asking for more. That line, according to early reviewers, hits like a hammer, especially for longtime viewers who remember the quiet struggle, Christine counting coupons, stretching groceries, while other homes in the family seemed comfortable. And then comes the real punch in the gut. According to early whispers, Christine includes something most memoirs would never dare, a PayPal receipt, just one. Tucked inside the final pages, a transfer made from the family account on the exact night of one of the most gut-wrenching episodes ever aired between Christine and Cody. She doesn't spell it out, doesn't need to. The date matches, the silence screams. While Christine was breaking on camera, pleading, crying, trying to hold the pieces of a collapsing life together, someone else, off-screen, was shifting money. It wasn't just emotional devastation, it was financial betrayal in real time.
That kind of timing doesn't feel like coincidence. It feels calculated, even strategic. Because when emotional heartbreak overlaps with financial movement, fans start connecting dots. And those dots, they don't paint a picture of family. They sketch out a power structure. If Christine's receipts really expose a pattern, not just a few one-off moments, but consistent, quiet acts of selective generosity, then everything the show claimed to stand for, unity, balance, share and sacrifice, starts to crumble under the weight of cold, undeniable math. Because love is messy, but money's traceable.
And fans are already whispering, if Christine and Janelle have this much, how much more do they have? How long have they been documenting? And most of all, who's next to speak up? Behind the cameras, the tension is reportedly just as real. Sources close to the production say TLC went into full-blown panic mode the moment news of Christine's expanded memoir hit industry circles. Not just because of what she wrote, but because of how specific it was. Dates, transfers, patterns, names. It wasn't just a tell-all, it was a timeline. A paper trail with implications that could fracture not only public perception, but the entire foundation of the Sister Wives empire.
According to a source close to the production team, the moment Christine's final manuscript landed, the air inside TLC's offices shifted. Emails started flying, not just between producers, but across legal, marketing, even the ad department. The question on everyone's mind wasn't just what did she write? It was how fast can we contain it before it blows up the brand? Because up until then, the plan was simple. Let Christine's memoir act like a gentle wave, something that would boost viewership, not capsize the boat. Early press angles were crafted to treat the book like a warm companion to the show, sweet, reflective, maybe even redemptive. But then those 32 pages hit, and the tone changed overnight. One veteran producer, someone who's been with Sister Wives since season 2, allegedly called the update a torpedo, because it wasn't just about Christine walking away. It was about pulling up the floorboards of everything they'd built. And here's where it gets stickier. Those pages weren't angry. They were calm, precise, deeply personal, and devastatingly factual. The memoir didn't scream scandal, it whispered truth. And that's what made it dangerous. Because when a woman like Christine, who fans watched for years as the quiet, faithful wife, starts naming numbers, recalling promises, and quietly dismantling the myth, you don't just lose control of a storyline, you lose control of the entire narrative. And TLC, according to insiders, is scrambling to decide which version of the story they'll tell next, because Christine just told hers, and there's no taking it back.
You take Truly and you go to Utah, the most polygamy unfriendly state in the union. You get a boyfriend who wants some of our money. And between you, your boyfriend, and the state of Utah, I lose any access to Truly and all my money because I've seen it happen to many, many people.
So that's your biggest fear?
Utah, a greedy boyfriend, a user, a greedy new husband, a user. Okay.
Rumor has it, Christine played the long game. Years ago, well before she packed her bags or announced anything publicly, she allegedly negotiated a quiet clause into her contract, something small, tucked in the fine print. It allowed her to publish a personal memoir as long as she didn't name names or expose behind-the-scenes production secrets. And now, it's clear that clause wasn't just a backup plan. It was an escape hatch. So when TLC's legal team finally got their hands on the updated manuscript, they weren't just reading a book. They were staring at the blueprint of Christine's exit, not just from Cody, but from them. And the part that stunned them most, she didn't break a single rule. No violations, no leaks, no lawsuits. She outmaneuvered the network, cleanly, calmly, completely. The fallout came fast. Marketing plans disappeared. Social promos slowed. Christine's name vanished from posts like she'd never been there at all. Suddenly, Janelle was doing solo interviews. Christine wasn't tagged, wasn't mentioned. Not even a birthday post. But Christine? She didn't lash out. She didn't drag anyone. She simply told the truth. Her truth. And it hit harder than any scandal could. Because when someone who spent over 15 years smiling on camera quietly turns, walks away, and shows up with receipts, confidence, and a best-selling book in her hand, it forces everyone left behind to look in the mirror. Now fans are asking, if Christine had an escape clause, did Janelle sign one too? Is this just the beginning of something bigger? Are more exits coming? And just when it felt like the dust might settle, Christine's final chapters delivered another quiet earthquake. Because tucked near the end, barely a few lines, was a reference to a funeral. No names, no dates, just a phrase. Everything I thought I'd accepted finally shattered. Fans believe she was talking about the funeral for Garrison Brown, a loss that left scars across the entire family. Christine doesn't accuse. She doesn't need to. She describes standing beside someone who couldn't even look her in the eye, a person who, even in grief, seemed to be performing, a moment where grief became just another stage. And if you've been following the tension between Mykelti and Robin, you know how fast the puzzle pieces lock into place. Not long after the funeral, Mykelti and Tony announced they were distancing themselves from Robin and Cody. They didn't go into detail. They didn't have to. But now, with Christine finally putting pen to paper, fans are connecting the dots. Was that funeral the final straw? Was it the moment the mask cracked wide open? And then something even weirder happened.
Robin's digital footprint changed overnight. One by one, she unfollowed almost the entire family. Christine, gone. Janelle, gone. Mary, gone. Even McKelty, who once called Robin her bonus mom, the only one left is Aspen. And Aspen's account is private. It looked like a reset, a quiet digital erasure, like she was scrubbing the family away before the tidal wave hit. But Robin never posts. She lurks, she watches, and where she's been active lately is Pinterest. Her pins? Quotes. Dozens of them. About betrayal, abandonment, being misunderstood, being surrounded by fakes. One reads, God is your source, not people, not your job, not your connections. To some, it's cryptic. To others, it's a message, loud and bitter. And as Christine's book climbs the charts, TLC stays quiet. Robin pins in the shadows, and fans everywhere are left asking, who's really writing the final chapter? While Christine has been lifting women up with every chapter, urging them to reclaim their lives, Robin seems to be slipping into something darker. Her social media, though mostly quiet, tells its own story. Quotes about betrayal, loneliness, and divine justice. It's like watching two women walk in opposite directions. One stepping into the light, the other clinging to a version of the past that may never have truly existed. But there's one thing Christine hasn't done. Named names. She hasn't said who stood behind her at the funeral. She hasn't said what was whispered in those final moments of goodbye. And maybe there's a reason. Because according to insiders, there's still one voicemail she's holding close. The kind of recording that could take this quiet memoir and turn it into a tidal wave. So now we're left wondering, has Christine said everything she has to say, or is this just the beginning? Because since those 32 new pages hit shelves, something unexpected has happened. Messages have started flooding her publisher's inbox, not from fans, but from women. Women in Arizona, in Utah, in small towns and closed communities. Some wrote their names, others didn't, but they all said the same thing. I finally feel seen. Christine didn't just write her truth. She cracked a window open for anyone who's ever been told to stay quiet, to serve, to sacrifice for the sake of religion or reputation. And now, according to publishing insiders, she's being quietly approached by organizations that help women leave high-control communities. Some say she's already taken meetings. One source even hinted she's discussing launching a fund to support women leaving polygamous groups, offering not just shelter, but therapy, legal aid, a way out. And you can feel the shift in her presence. Her Instagram isn't soft or curated. It's raw, bold, honest. She posts old pictures of herself and writes captions like, "This is when I thought I had to stay quiet," or "This was the day I started waking up." And those words, those quiet little sentences, are landing like thunder for women over 50 who have spent years making things work, carrying families, swallowing their pain. But not everyone sees Christine's awakening as something to celebrate. Cody, according to family insiders, sees it as a betrayal. Word is, he told a close friend that Christine is rebranding herself on betrayal. But even that reveals the very thing Christine's memoir exposed. He still sees this as about him. Christine didn't break the covenant. She broke free of it. And for thousands of women watching her closely, that difference means everything. She's not angry. She's not screaming. She's not picking fights or airing grievances. She's just not afraid anymore. And that kind of quiet power, it's the most dangerous kind. It's hard to dismiss. It's hard to silence. It's hard to smear. And now sources say she's met with an attorney who specializes in cult exit strategies. It allegedly happened during her New York book tour. No press, no posts, just a closed-door meeting that could lead to something seismic. Because Christine's memoir might just be her first step, not the last. And that's the part shaking TLC to its core. Cody's reaction wasn't calculated. It was chaos. The moment Christine's updated memoir went public, insiders say he spiraled into panic mode. Not the cool, quiet damage control you'd expect. We're talking full meltdown, rants on Cameo, desperate calls to tabloids, even an alleged cease and desist sent to her publisher. But here's the thing. Christine was smart. She followed every rule. Her book doesn't name producers. It doesn't expose financial documents linked to Cody's name, and every accusation framed as personal memory or emotional truth. Bulletproof. And that's what stings the most. He can't shut her down. not without proving everything she's already implied. Meanwhile, Christine's tour is gaining momentum. Women are showing up not just as fans, but as followers of a movement, because this story isn't just about sister wives anymore. It's about waking up, about leaving, about rebuilding. And as her memoir climbs the charts, Kody's grip on the story slips further away. There's even talk that TLC is considering splitting the show in two, Kody and Robin in one timeline, Christine and Janelle in another. But behind closed doors, producers are nervous, because the more Christine shines, the more Kody fades into the background. And word is, he's pushing hard for a rebuttal special, a televised correction. But how do you refuse someone who's just calmly telling their truth? Christine isn't trying to win. She's just done pretending. And now fans are asking, what happens when the leader no longer leads? When the silence breaks and the story keeps going without you? Because Christine has the mic now, and Kody, he's shouting into a void. The last pages of Christine's memoir don't end with a punch. They end with a whisper. I stopped being a wife the moment I stopped lying to myself. It's not dramatic. It's not cruel. It's the quiet truth of a woman who outgrew the role she was given, a woman who raised her children, carried the weight, performed the part, and finally laid it down. She doesn't blast Kody. She doesn't even say goodbye. Instead, she writes a letter to herself, a reflection on the years she pretended to be happy and the moment she finally chose something else. And that's what makes this story so powerful. It's not just Christine's truth. It's a mirror for every woman who's ever stayed too long, worked too hard, or gone silent to keep the peace. Her story resonates not because it's rare, but because it's familiar. And in those final pages, she doesn't give permission to be angry. She gives permission to leave, with grace, with dignity, with the kind of strength that doesn't shout, but echoes. And now, all eyes are on what Christine does next. Whispers are swirling. Maybe there's a second book in the works. Not another memoir, but something more expansive. A guide, perhaps. Something to help women navigate the painful, messy path of spiritual breakups, religious deprogramming, or just learning how to take up space after years of shrinking themselves inside someone else's version of love. It wouldn't be a stretch. Christine's already become a voice for the silent, and insiders say she's just getting started. The rumors don't stop there. Behind the scenes, the talk is growing louder about quiet meetings with advocacy groups, the beginnings of something bigger, a foundation, a national speaking tour, maybe even a docuseries of her own, that one that finally puts her in the driver's seat, not as the side character in someone else's story, but as the woman who lived it, survived it, and now owns every frame. Because make no mistake, Christine isn't slipping into the background. She's not the ex-wife with a sad past. She's the survivor with a spotlight, and this time she's in full control of the lens. Meanwhile, the Sister Wives universe feels like it's teetering on the edge. Kody and Robin, still silent, retreating behind carefully chosen Pinterest quotes and birthday posts that say very little and imply even less. Janelle remains steady, measured, but she's dropping her own hints. Just enough to remind us she's got a truth of her own to share. And the fans? They're not just watching for entertainment anymore. They're watching with intent, waiting for the next voice to rise, the next page to turn, the next woman to finally break her silence. Because what once felt like a family drama is starting to look like the final act of a franchise that's unraveling right in front of us. So now, the questions are yours. Was this the truth Christine was never supposed to say out loud? And will her quiet bravery give the others the courage to finally speak up? If you're still here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay close, because the next chapter is coming fast. And trust me, it's one you won't want to miss.